And I think we'll go ahead and start. So welcome, everyone. We are here to help you with your questions about the grant program for tax filing assistance. So this is a new program to expand tax filing assistance for low-income Oregonians, and we're hoping organizations around the state will participate so we can get more help for Oregonians to file their taxes and get the tax benefits. But to get things rolling, I guess my name is James Barta. I do community engagement for self-sufficiency programs, but I should turn it over to Sharon Landis.
Hello, I'm Sharon. I'm with the Office of Contracts and Procurement, and I'm on the solicitation team. And I'll go ahead and any statements that are made in this webinar are not binding upon the agency or programs. Applicants may be asked to submit questions in writing. The RFGA can only be changed by a written amendment posted in Oregon BIS. I am the sole point of contact for this RFGA. If you need to give me a call, my number is 971-208-4151, or email sharon.m.landis@dhsoha.state.or.us. And I'm ready for the next slide. The purpose of this webinar is to provide an overview of the tax filing assistance, explain the request for grant application process, and to answer any questions you may have related to tax filing assistance program or the RFGA process itself. And with that, I'll turn it back over to James.
Thank you, Sharon. And we'll go to the next slide. And we're going to be just going through the application materials itself, and this is from lifted right from section 2.3. But the overview and purpose of this, as I mentioned when we started off, we are seeking to increase assistance for Oregonians to file their taxes so they can reap the benefits that they're due from the tax code, whether it's the earned income tax credit or the child tax credit. And as this text shows, House Bill 4117 passed at the beginning of this year in the short session, created this grant program. And we're looking specifically at culturally specific and responsive community-based organizations. If you look at the legislation, it calls that out. And tribal governments and under-resourced community organizations, rural or otherwise. So the research that we've seen shows that people can know about these tax benefits, but unless they get help, they're just not going to apply. So this is where organizations like yourself come in, and this grant program is hoping to make this expand the services that are available, whether it's a shovel-ready projects in a sense, or it's stabilizing existing programs that offer free tax support. So go ahead and go to the next slide. Getting a little more into the nuts and bolts, this section, we're going to, this is the goals, and there is that mandatory goal that we're going to serve people who are presently underserved, community identified populations, so that they can get these tax credits, the EITC, earned income tax credit, and the child tax credit. And additionally, in your application, you need to also identify one of these goals of either strengthening the current network of free tax providers, whether culturally specific or responsive organizations, or recruit and retain these qualified tax preparers, build and strengthen the network of them, or begin to build statewide technical assistance and support capacity for new tax providers. So, these are broad. There's the volunteer people who actually help someone complete the taxes, but on the other end of the spectrum, it's providing the assistance, whether it's understanding where you should direct people. Should they go to a volunteer provider, or could they go to an online free support? There's a broad range of help that will still help Oregonians overcome that barrier and actually do their taxes. So next slide. And lifting from section 2.3.2 now, it's you're going into these three different things in a little more detail. Do you have the capacity to expand the VITA services? VITA being Volunteer Income Tax Assisters, which is a IRS approved class that takes quite a bit of time, for volunteers to go through, but then you're able to help people directly fill their taxes. Could be tax navigation, where you're offering basic awareness about filing taxes, and then that end of the spectrum finally is support the free tax support networks. And this can include directing people either to a VITA site or through to online help, or just mention to people, these are the documents you need to file your taxes. All right, go ahead to the next slide. So this is almost like a glossary for the application purposes. Again, just a little further in the application, section 2.4.1. I don't know if we need to go through each of these in detail, but just trying to define terms. There's a tax triage system, facilitate self-assistance. Maybe you're just helping make sure that people have the necessary paperwork so they could do their tax application on their own. We could also see people not only having VITA sites, but we're aware of some sites like a tribal government that is paying someone to prepare tax filing applications for members of their tribal community. And so there's a lot of different ways we can go about this. Is it supporting year-round operational support? Because for people who are eligible for these taxes, often they don't owe any taxes. So that traditional April 15th deadline that we think about so much, most of us do not apply to a lot of the low-income Oregonians who will be filing. There's training and recruitment systems, and just in general, the communication that is also necessary, getting the word out about these different services for community organizations, tribal governments, and other state agencies. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And so when it comes to the reporting requirements, you'll have, it's a brief report required for this grant funding. It's like, did you have to buy any hardware or software? Did, how much time is staff spending on this project? So the plan was to keep it simple. I think these are, hopefully you'll find these as reasonable requests of any report that is going to, that you have to give if you do indeed get the grant. And the next slide. And the reporting does vary whichever track that you choose to go on. If you're doing the more complete tax completion, with volunteer tax preparers, then how many returns did you complete? How much value did people get? If it's more on the tax navigation, well, how many handoffs did you give to other places and any relationships, any memorandums that you have with other organizations. And if it's the more broad technical assistance, please include, description of these activities and the documentation and presentations that you've given and the number of Oregonians that came through and used your services. So, it looks like a lot here, but chances are you're just selecting one of these 3 tracks. So I will turn it back over to Sharon on the next slide.
Okay. The minimum qualifications, existing capacity to provide at least one of the services along the free tax support continuum and fall into the categories of tax navigation, completion, and technical assistance is outlined in section 2.3.2. To be registered in Oregon BIES, the application will be submitted through Oregon BIES. So if you're already registered, it'll be quicker to do that. And I must say, Oregon BIES is not the most user-friendly system. So please, if you have any questions as you're navigating Oregon BIES, don't hesitate to give me a call. And unless it's an issue with the system thing, and then DAS would be the one to call, but I can give you that contact information. It's on the slide. If you have to call their support line, 1-855-800-5046 or support.oregonbies at das.oregon.gov. And then just complete and submit all the application packet items. And I'm ready for the next slide. These are the items that need to be returned. The disclosure exemption affidavit, that's just telling me if you have anything in your application deemed as proprietary, you can identify that. And in a public records request, that wouldn't be released. But it does need to meet the standard of proprietary exemption. Applicant information and certification sheet, that's just going to be basic information about your organization's legal entity name, the contact person, and their contact information. And then there's the grant application that has the questions that you'll be answering. You don't have to put together a proposal, you just need to answer the questions that are on the application. And then the COVID certification outreach plan, that just lets me know if you are certified as one of those businesses, either a minority business owner, a small business entity, a veteran-owned entity. It just lets me know that designation. And then the responsibility inquiry is just going to ask some questions about your organization's financial history, as well as if you've had grants before, and then last is the budget attachment. You just need to fill in the information that's in there. It won't be scored, but it helps with the process of seeing what those details are. The next slide, please. This is the evaluation criteria. when your application comes in, I'll do a check for responsibility and responsiveness. And once it passes that check, then I submit the application over to the evaluation committee, and they begin that evaluation process. If in my review I have any questions, I may reach out to you and ask for clarification. And also the evaluation committee, if they need clarification, they will contact me, and then I will contact you and ask for those clarifications. So don't be alarmed if you hear from me. It's just part of the process. The scoring, it's going to be scored according to this key here. A score of 10 is outstanding. The response has all the requirements and demonstrates everything in a clear and concise manner. And it shows that the applicant has insight and expertise and knowledge of the subject matter. 6 to 9 is very good. The response provides useful information while showing experience and knowledge within the category, and demonstrates above average knowledge and ability with no apparent deficiencies noted. 5 is adequate. The response meets all the requirements in an adequate manner. It's able to comply with guidelines, parameters, requirements with no additional information put forth by the applicant. 1 to 4 is fair. The applicant meets minimum requirements, but does not demonstrate sufficient knowledge of the subject matter. And then 0, the response is of no value, is unacceptable response, and it doesn't meet the requirements set forth in the RFGA. And proposer has not demonstrated knowledge of the subject matter. I mean, applicant. Okay, I'm ready for the next slide. The criterion, these are match up with the questions on the application that you'll be asked. The 1 through 1A, B, and C are all part of that first question. Number 1, it's going to be the populations focused on and to what extent identified outreach and support to populations. That's all of the criterion are worth 10 points. Those that are important have a weight value. Well, they're all important, but these in number 1 are identifying that culturally specific and responsive, and so it's deemed a little more important than the others, and have a weight value of 2 for a total possible points of 20. And the 1A, 1B, and 1C just follows about tax providers, tax navigation, and the technical assistance. The second question, ability to continue building, enhancing tax services from existing data, projects, or programs. Number 3, have a procedure for gathering, storing, reporting, and sharing data and measuring success to agency and broader community. And 4, applicants' ability to use funds to expand the current capacity. So with the weight, there's a total points possible of 70. In order to qualify to be awarded a grant, you need a total of 40 points. Well, the thing about this being a request for grant application, as long as the RFGA has not ended and it's still going on, if you have submitted your application and it doesn't qualify, you have an opportunity to reapply. And the evaluation team, on their score sheets, they have an area that for each of these criterion to write comments that would help with providing an explanation of why you didn't qualify. So you would have that opportunity to go back, resubmit your application using that feedback from that evaluation committee team, and increase your score and possibly qualify. So if you receive a notice and it says, you know, you didn't get the 40 points and it's still open, you know, please try again with the debriefing information that I'll give you. Okay, I'm ready for the next slide. I think we're done. So if anybody has any questions, now would be the time to.
Yes, we would love your questions. I suppose I just want to emphasize a few things. This legislation allocated $4 million state funding for this, and we're getting a later start on this than we like, but we want to get as much of this money as possible for this coming to support this coming tax year, and hopefully we'll have more opportunities coming up for the next biennium as well. But this is these are smaller grants to just expand whatever existing program that you have. And I know there's 6 attachments to put together, but it's all buried in there. But inside, is it attachment D, I believe, the grant application itself, there are the questions you're answering, and it says, you know, brief response required. We really do mean, you know, we're just thinking a few sentences. Please don't write a book. Don't need it. If there's anything missing, we'll get back, you know, through Sharon, we'll get back to you and let you know if there's a problem. But the goal is to not only reduce barriers for Oregonians filing their taxes, but reduce barriers for organizations such as yourselves as well.
Do you know if there might be also like additional funding for us to help people get their ITINs if they're filing for the first time, or is that not available?
That is definitely on our radar to help with, but and I think that's something that will be more explicitly done in a future round. But if you want to make that your emphasis, this one, you could do that, and that comes under the you know, this umbrella.
Thank you.
Great question, Debbie. Thank you. Anything else?
Sorry, I have another question. I know that Oregon buys, like how you mentioned, Sharon, it's not the easiest or like the user friendly. Is there any way y'all can create kind of like a video or just kind of like a step-by-step kind of a thing? Because I went on and I tried to look at all the information, and I keep getting like updates about it, and I'm so confused as to what that means. And then about like how to upload the documents, where to get the documents. I've had to kind of go in and like look on my own, but I want to make sure that when I file my application that I'm doing it correctly. And I was just wondering about that.
Yeah, I can send you a DAS guide on navigating Oregon buys. It's a user guide. If you want to drop your email in the chat, I can send that to you this afternoon. I also answered your question in the chat about setting up time. So
perfect. Thank you. I'll send you my email.
Okay.
Sharon, go ahead and send me that guide too, so I can share it if people request it. Yes, Justin.
Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself since I kind of came in late. So I'm Justin Torres. I'm a community engagement coordinator for the community engagement team for OHA. So I'm kind of new to Oregon buys. We kind of thought that this would be a good way for us to learn about Oregon buys, so we can kind of advocate for our CBOs to start using it more. So I guess this is kind of my first webinar I popped into. So thank you. And I would like that information too on how to get started, and looking forward to learning more about Oregon buys and what that means for our CBOs and how we can share that out for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, and if you could go ahead and put your email address in the chat too, I'll make sure you get a guide.
All right. Well, we have an hour scheduled, so I don't want to cut things short. But if there's no other questions, sounds like we have some guides to get out, and look forward to your applications. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this or participating here today.